Meher Baba ki jai.
Uh,
So let's start with how to love God. Over to you, Ashokji.
yeah. Avatar, Meher Baba ki Jai. How to love God. To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our loved ones, we love God. One, if instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. Two, if instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. Three, if we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. Four, if instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. Five, if we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. Six, if we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. Seven, to love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and to find Himself as our own self. Bhai Meher Baba, Avatar Meher Baba ki
Meher
Jai.
Baba ki jai.
Just one
Thank.
an observation that there are seven, we read seven realities, and there are seven lines also in this, particular read uh, of the dictats which given by Baba. So seven definitely is a important number.
Divine number. Yes, it is.
Yes, right. He said divine number, and we have
Okay.
Sunil on the call as well. Sunil,
Yes. Good morning, Sunil.
Jai Baba, good
Jai
morning.
Baba.
Jay Baba Sunil.
Yes.
So, just to go back to where we are reading discourses, and we are down to the last 4 to 9. So it's 6 chapters of Present Humanity. And the last one we did, so I actually moved it to the sections. So under God, there is in stages of the path, there is reference to sleep and sleep and waking and the cycles of sleep. So that's where I think this should go, the cycle of sleep and waking. And last time we read Origins and Effects of War. That belongs here, where travail of the new world order, violence and non-violence are linked. Because if you remember, origins and effects of war, there was a lot of correlation between what we read in violence and non-violence and this. So I put it here. So the next time we can read it along at that time. Death and Immortality was the first chapter, if you remember. Ashok, your favorite chapter. That comes, I think, before reincarnation karma. And by the way, I consulted karma before slotting these things here. And the next time we read it, I think it'll be good. So now we are going to take up the fourth part, which is New World Culture. Yeah. Any thoughts before we go ahead?
And as I said, the new world culture or the new world order, which Baba has written so many years ago, it has come true with the uh, new world order uh, and the global reset in COVID.
Yeah, I think it has a different connotation today,
Okay.
but I mean, different as in. different connotation in the public material world and different connotation in the Baba world. Like Baba has said this said this almost 70 years back. But what is in the narrative, popular narrative today, refers to something very specific and different. They are referring to geopolitical change and geoeconomic change that is happening. But yeah, I think it's still relevant. It talks about uh, the change in consciousness and change in community and society that Baba is foreseeing, and that's, I believe, ongoing and current.
Absolutely, very, very relevant, and there will be pearls of wisdom relevant for us.
Indeed. So, any volunteers to want to read first?
I'm okay with reading first. Uh,
Okay, please go ahead.
uh,
Chapter
Avatar,
4, New World Culture.
yeah, yeah. Avatar Meer Baba ki Jai. The East has had and will continue to have great influence on the spiritual heritage of the world, and therefore upon the outlines of the new humanity. For all its material backwardness, the East remains spiritual. For ages, it has been the home of avatars, prophets, masters, seers, and sages whose contribution to the spiritual evolution of humanity has been unparalleled. It is essential that the spiritual atmosphere of the East be maintained even at the cost, if necessary, of material unhappiness. If the East's spiritual power and value are retained, the suffering of her people will finally be supplanted by happiness. The
So is Baba suggesting here that there is a challenge to the spiritual atmosphere of the East? Let's read on to find out. But yeah, because he's saying that if the East spiritual power and value are retained, the suffering of her people will finally be supplanted by happiness. But let's read on.
I think the connotation is towards, you know uh, giving the importance to spirituality over material happiness. I think that's what there's a takeaway I take from this. Maybe, but let's read on, as you rightly said.
Yeah.
Uh, the current problems of the East are more complex in some ways than those the West is required to solve. Men of all races, creeds, cults, and religions are to be found in the East. Although this lack of racial and cultural uniformity has presented difficulties in developing solidarity in the national life of the East, it must not be regarded as being an unrelieved handicap. The various streams of culture pouring into the life history of the East in particular and of the world in general have added to the wealth of its resources. They have not only created a suitable opportunity for the generation of a new cultural synthesis, but have required its emergence. Under deft and creative leadership, such conflicting elements can bring a rich new culture into existence, capable of rejuvenating and harmonizing the life of the whole world. Can I read this line again? Uh, Under
Yep.
deft and creative leadership, such conflicting elements can bring a rich new culture into existence, capable of regenerating and harmonizing the life of the whole world. If I may mention here, there is a possible solution to how do we come out of this, you know, whole. situation which we are in.
True.
A new, cohesive, vital culture cannot be brought to life by a purely mechanical combination of isolated elements selected from present cultures. This could only result in a vague patchwork with no spontaneous life of its own. Such a hodgepodge of assembled ideas can never be a substitute for that essential element from which a new culture must be generated, a direct, fresh perception of the goal. The new culture must emerge from an integral vision of truth. Springing independent of existing tradition and unrelated to any laborious compilation of historical values. Wow. The new world culture born, sorry, the new world culture born from the new humanity and its integral vision will automatically involve a cultural synthesis. The vision that inspires the new culture will be comprehensive. It will not deny the value of diverse traditions, nor will it merely accord them patronizing tolerance. On the contrary, it will entail active appreciation of the diverse religions and cultures. The vast vision of the truth cannot be
Can you,
limited.
Ashok,
Sorry.
can we try to understand this paragraph? There seems to be little complicated words and sentences here.
Oh, definitely. You want me to read again?
Yeah, why don't you
Hmm.
read it again? I also was thinking of the same.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
somebody can explain what's the inner meaning of that. That will be great too.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Fair point. The new world culture born from the new humanity and its integral vision will automatically involve a cultural synthesis. The vision that inspires the new culture will be comprehensive. It will not deny the value of diverse traditions, nor will it merely accord them patronizing tolerance. On the contrary, it will entail active appreciation of the diverse religions and cultures. Can I just mention what is in my mind, Karthik?
Sure, of course.
Yes. So I think Baba has always said that, you know, a synthesis of the East and the West. He has also given a lot of importance to the East-West gathering. So I think it relates to a cultural synthesis of both, of all cultures and values, both East and West. I think that there is a reference, or there is a, you know, it is alluding to that, is, and that will bring in a new culture where there is harmony and love and respect. And here I mean spiritual love, the love of the highest degree, which Kama has said, you know, pure spiritual love. I mean, and I
Hmm.
think Baba's message of, or in this advent of spreading pure spiritual love, is what I take away from this. But I'm open to listen to
Yeah.
others.
I think you brought in a very good point, Ashok. I think I was just one thinking about what is this new world culture, you know? And it says, Baba says here, born from new humanity, that its integral vision will automatically involve cultural synthesis. That's very interesting. How can that happen? Let's say some weird people of a group of people formed a culture. Can we bring in that cultural synthesis? Probably not. You know, we can do all the other things, but there should be, how to say this? Maybe Baba's, whatever the energy and love Baba started infusing into the world among few people, those are the people I think who bring in this new culture. That's what I'm thinking,
Interesting.
Uh,
you
Interesting.
know,
it's interesting.
Jai
because,
Baba. Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
finish it?
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Yeah,
The
let Ravi
way I
finish
look
what you're
at it is
saying.
the Kriya Yoga. Okay, sorry.
let
Yeah,
me
yeah. Yeah, finish Ravi
so
and then Kama. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just going to question the same questions I have, but I got something from Ashok what he said. But who are this new culture? That is my first question that came. I think all the Baba lovers and whoever Baba spirituality lighted up in a lot of hearts, even though they do not know about Meher Baba. These people bring in a new culture. I think they change the world. There is a saying: every village has got 80% normal or dumb people and 20% intellectual who maintain the village. There is a saying that what I heard. Um, now, who are
Where
these
did you
20
hear
people?
this now? 80-20 is what
I no,
Kama
just a
keeps
saying.
saying. Okay, go ahead.
Just a saying that 80-20 rule is there, general rule, not a hard,
Yeah,
fast rule or
exactly.
anything.
Yeah.
Just Uh, so these because this is comprehensive. The vision that inspires the new culture will be comprehensive. And if what do we know exactly? What are the elements that we need to comprise to bring in a new culture? We don't know, right? Unless Baba is involved in that. I just want to say that's about it. Jai Baba. Go ahead, Kama.
That's a very good way of looking at it. Thanks to both of you. But go ahead, Kama, you were saying something.
Yeah, what jumps to me is the cultural synthesis we are already seeing, as you said, the meeting of the East and West, where you have yoga, Hatha Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Vipassana practices from the East are being adopted by the West. And there is that kind of cultural synthesis. And the other thing is that, as Baba said, we have gone from the age of analytical reasoning mind to the age of intuition. So it's about the heart aspects. So I think that's what I see. It's kind of very simple. There's nothing, no rocket science in this. It's just a matter of understanding the unity in diversity and approaching it from the beads on a string kind of approach. Jai Baba.
Exactly what I was thinking. Beads on a string is what I thought is the best way to summarize this. The
Yeah, that's Baba's message. That's
Yes,
Baba's
exactly.
message.
Yeah. So, but I love the way he writes it, right? The way he
Mm.
communicates this. It will
Yeah.
not deny the value of diverse traditions, nor will it merely accord them patronizing tolerance, right? We have a tendency to patronize in inclusion. So to I don't want to use the bad word, but basically the Western idea of patronizing tolerance is gone too far. It's just ridiculous, right? So he's saying that that is not the way to respect diversity, and that's not the idea of beads on a string. So that's my big takeaway from this
Yeah.
para.
Yeah, but if you take in general in the social perspective also,
Hmm.
once Baba has said the technology and the social development has evolved in a way that people are working across the continents. People, it's a very hetero kind of work. Even if you are in India, one fellow could be from Kashmir, one fellow from Bengal, and one from Tamil Nadu. So that has changed, and the advent of internet, which also is Baba's blessing, I suppose. I mean, nothing is beyond him. The people are interacting internationally. They are traveling. They are meeting each other, getting to know each other. So in that sense also, if we look at Baba's message, that's really happening. So the cultures are changing. We sometimes we just don't know that we are changing, but things are
Mhm.
changing.
Yeah.
As we used to be 30, 40 years back, the people even in the remotest places are. I was in Maheva and
Yes, we
days
saw the
back.
photographs. Thank
Yeah,
you. Lovely.
and uh, I, I was using my phone, and it's a very remote village actually. There is 7, 8, 10 kilometers you go off the main way, and it is inside like island kind of a place. And the kids are saying, "Oh, this is an iPhone and all that, which is iPhone 16 or 14." They were like 5, 7 years old kids. So that shows The things are so fast spreading across everywhere. Yeah. You are having Rajnikant movies getting hit in Japan, that kind of a thing. Even the Western movies which come to American movies that come to India. That way, it is also happening. Yeah, it's just from social perspective. Yeah, Jai Baba.
So, Jay Baba, if you see, that even at MPR, there is a cultural synthesis happening in the sense that we meet people from different nations, different cultures, as far as wide as US, Russia. I met somebody. So I'm just saying that in small, subtle ways, Baba is letting this synthesis happen, and also the vision of the new culture is happening. And even on this call, you see, we have Mahu, who's from a different continent, and we have people from different places, and we are all gathered here discussing this. So I think it's happening. It's in a small, subtle way, in its own way, and Baba is orchestrating this.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if I
Baba.
may summarize all the things that we discussed, all of it is relevant. One, the East and the West are coming together like never before. The cables are laid and the cables now are buzzing. Okay. Two, there's tools and evolution of science and technology which has helped demolish barriers. Three, we are going to a world where there is enormous appreciation of each other's cultures, right? So, and obviously the East is getting a lot more prominence. Yoga has moved everywhere, so on and so forth. So overall, it's the beads on a string coming to reality where we see it through the eyes of Baba. And the big point Ravi made is this push would be done by souls that probably are getting exposed to Baba, right? Who understand Baba and they drive this change. I think lovely way to understand all of what we said.
Yeah. I'd like to add a couple of things, Karthik, if I may.
Sure.
I was listening to Irich's talk in the Mandalay Hall talks, and in one of the talks, it seems Baba said all these innovations that happened in the early 20th century is done for Baba's work. That's really surprising. We think, Pauli invented this, Einstein invented the theory of relativity, discovered a theory of relativity,
Relativity.
or proposed the theory of relativity. All these things, quantum mechanics and all these things, nothing to do with Baba, is we think is natural development. But Urich was saying that Baba mentioned that all these scientific developments happen so that Baba could use for his universal work. I thought that's amazing, that can be added also in this cultural synthesis. And one more point I read long time ago, I do not remember where exactly I read, and Baba mentioned that Eastern men will be born as females in the West, and all the Western men will be born as females in the East, vice
Yeah,
versa.
so
You heard
that's a
somewhere.
combination of two things. Baba says
Yeah,
that souls alternate between East and West, and Baba
yeah,
also says the sexes alternate when you in the reincarnation phase. So a fair, and he has specifically said what you just mentioned, which is a soul which is born as a male in the West, in its next birth will be a female in the East, right? So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I do not know whether
Jai
I
Baba,
don't know
Jai
whether
Baba, if
it
there's a
is.
comment, the comment here is, I think what I read was that the woman in the West will be more spiritual, vis-a-vis the men in the East are more spiritual. I don't know about that part. Yes, it is known that the soul is born in the East or in the West as a male or a female in different time periods. But what I understood from discourses was he said that the women in the West are more spiritual and the men in the East are more spiritual. That is what has been mentioned in the discourses. Jai Baba.
Yeah, that's mentioned. Okay, but we're talking about uh, Eastern females are born as men in the West, and the other way around. That's also mentioned. I'm sure it's mentioned here, but that might have to do something with the spiritual culture, cultural synthesis, whatever we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
On
good
that note,
discussion.
let's continue. And as we continue, can we get also to rotate the reading? Anybody wants to take over from this point on? Maybe I will. Thank you, Ashokji.
And thank you, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So I continue from the next paragraph. Tar Meher Baba ki jai. This vast vision of the truth cannot be limited by any creed, dogma, or sect. It will actively help men to transcend these limitations not by blind negation of the value of the existing creeds, but by discovering, accentuating, unfolding, and cherishing the facets of truth which are in them. Another task which confronts the creative leadership of the East is to strive for political poise in spite of the difficult position the East occupies in international circles. The East can never make its full contribution to the world unless it is free from external political domination and fear of foreign aggression. Insistence upon this fundamental point though, should not disturb its political poise nor push it into a vitiated and reactionary isolationism. On the other hand, any future discharging of the clear duty to resist foreign aggression should not involve in it a sense of hate, malice, or revenge. And I mean, this is an amazing paragraph. And if you see it in the geopolitics of the last 10 years, it's actually playing out, right? For the first time, we have the global south. This idea itself was unknown. The term global south, right? Global south is basically east, okay? See, we have lived long enough in a Western dominated world, and we are now waking up to the reality of the unequal nature of the control and influence, unequal nature of the economic distribution, the unequal nature of political power, and so on and so forth. And you see, if you read this paragraph in the context of what's happening in the last 10, 20 years, it's amazing. It's just it's all being pushed by Baba, is what now I understand after reading this paragraph. Continue. This, in turn, raises the perplexing question of the utilization of non-violence, which has been such an active tool in India's recent past. Obviously, referring to the independence, because this was 1952. Aggression must be met with resistance, and in such case, non-violence is impractical. Pure non-violence or incorruptible love only comes spontaneously when duality has been completely transcended in the realization of the last and only truth. Even non-violence of the brave is even non-violence of the brave is possible only for advanced souls who have eradicated all forms of greed and hate from their minds through rigorous discipline. Very interesting point. So, non-violence has been an active tool, is the first statement. But then he goes on to say, you cannot always use non-violence as a tool. And in fact, pure non-violence and non-violence of the brave is only possible when you're spiritually evolved. So in all other cases, it may be practical to use violence. For the masses, it is I continue reading. For the masses, it is undesirable to adhere to external non-violence when it is a question of clear duty to resist aggression in their own defense or in the defense of weaker brothers. Insistence upon universal non-violence can only lead the masses to a cowardly, irresponsible, and inert attitude. Wow. Insistence upon universal nonviolence can only lead the masses to a cowardly, irresponsible, and inert attitude. Beautiful. True love is no game for the faint hearted and the weak. It is born of strength and understanding. In its enthusiasm for the highest ideal, wise leadership can never afford to lose sight of the relative and practical. Human evolution proceeds by gradual stages from selfish violence to unselfish violence, and then from non-violence of the brave to the pure and incorruptible non-violence of truth as infinite love. Each individual exists at some point in this succession, and his duty in time of war is indelibly determined by that position. So the progression is selfish violence to unselfish violence, non-violence of the brave to pure and incorruptible non-violence of truth. So that's the evolution that we go through from in violence. Sorry. Okay. All narrowness limits love. In the East, as in the rest of the world, humanity is breaking itself into narrow groups based upon caste, creed, race, nationality, religion, or culture. All this is due to ignorance, prejudice, and selfishness. It can only be mended by fostering a spirit of mutuality, which will derive its strength from a sense of the inviolable unity of all life. Creative leadership will have to recognize and then emphasize the fact that all men are already united, not only by their co partnership in the great divine plan for the earth, but also by the fact that they are all equally the expression of the one life. No line of action can be really fruitful unless it is in complete harmony with this truth. So, if you go back to the Eastern thinking, especially from Hindu culture, Vedic culture. And I know, Ashok, you love this concept. There is a concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? Now, what we need to do is creatively put that as the message of the world, and I think it's already happening in more ways than one. And again, I believe Baba has a big role. See, unity and recognizing the other can come only from a point of truth, and that's the truth, the big T truth, or the realization of the reality, right? Only then can you agree to truly respect and tolerate another culture. And Vasudeva Kutumbakam is just that. And in fact, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, if you truly understand it, it also recognizes the concept that there are souls in plants, in other forms of vegetation and animals, and all of them deserve to live in harmony with us, right? With us, and we obviously, in spite of our differences, need to be able to not just tolerate. I love the previous page where it said patronizing tolerance. We don't want patronizing tolerance. We want inclusion. We want respect, and we should extend that to each other from different cultures. We don't want to say, "Oh, okay, you have your own culture, so we'll let you do what you want." No, we respect and we welcome and we embrace as much as possible. And I think that's happening.
Jay Baba, Karthik, you put it rightly. And also, if you see in the Sufism oriented, they have a song, and I think it's very relevant here.
Yes.
All are one.
All are one. Yes.
So
All are
beautiful.
one.
That's a beautiful, you know, uh, dance format of what is being said in this chapter. I would advise everybody to look into it. It's there on YouTube, and of course, the YouTube University is there. But I mean,
Yes.
it's happening as you rightly said, and there are forces which are getting aligned for the East, West, and all cultural synthesis. And also, we
But
have visited what was said about non-violence earlier. I think we have already discussed those stages of you know
Yes.
um,
yeah,
of
but Karthik, I just wanted to add,
Sure.
as
Please
it
go ahead.
as we read and we find pleasure the way it is written, it is not going to happen so smoothly. There will be a lot of
Hmm.
storms when the water settles down.
Oh,
So what we are
absolutely.
seeing, especially in terms of the in the Hindu and the Christian faith interacting with Islam, and
Hmm.
Jews interacting with Islam. So it is not a very smooth process. So the Jews will come out after 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 all this settles down. That's what I think. It is not as easy as we read.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll give you a very, very recent and relevant example. 3 weeks back, or was it 2 weeks? I don't even know. I was very happy that probably we are going to 4 years of peace thanks to a outcome of an election, right? In the last one week, we have actually seen the worsening of the situation, right? So
Yeah,
the powers are constantly
that's the
at
reason
it.
behind this, because
Yeah,
before this guy comes up, the new elect
exactly.
president,
They want,
they want
yeah,
to
they want to
finish off
finish.
whatever they
Yeah,
can do, the worst kind of damages. Yeah.
sad. So as you rightly pointed out, there will be lot of. I mean, it's the big picture is positive, and Baba is in control or is driving the agenda, but it's not going to be. Maya is going to play its big role in a very intensive manner, and we are seeing that as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Misery and the pain will teach people the reality of
Yes.
things. It's not as very easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's continue. There must be love for friend and foe, goodwill, patience, and forbearance. Man must try to remedy his own defects instead of clamoring about the faults of others. The world will soon realize that neither cults, creeds, and ceremonies on the one hand, nor passionate striving for material welfare on the other can ever bring about real happiness. But that selfless love and universal brotherhood can accomplish it. So is one to assume that broadly cults, creeds, and ceremonies are more an Eastern phenomenon, broadly again I'm saying, and passionate striving for material welfare is a Western phenomenon? Is that the way the
No,
world
it's kind
is?
of, yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no. The West and East somehow are mixed up now. There's the
Hmm.
influence of Western culture on the East, full force, and influence of Eastern culture on the West. And that's Baba's work because he
Mm.
said, I have come to bring the East and West together. So that's part of his work that he's doing. He's done doing it during the universal doing his universal work, but now it takes its own reality. And no, I mean, in the West, Jewish people are very much into ritual and ceremony. Muslims, the same. Hindus, even Hindu, when they do the marriage ceremony, it's 3 days, a lot of rituals. So I can't believe how extravagant, this could be. And, so it's all mixed up. And I think the reason that Baba says that is because all these ritual and ceremonies gives this illusion to people that, oh, we're doing a spiritual work. This is really a spiritual work. And so forth. It's a distraction because he kept on saying none of this will bring the real happiness because they go through it, still they are sad, they're depressed, they are dissatisfied because they haven't been exposed or aimed for real happiness. And that happened in our life too. It's happening. Yeah.
That's a very good point. I mean, the Baba laid the cables, and what you rightly said, today the culture has actually spread from the west to the east. So when you land in a new country, the symbols are very familiar, right? Which would not be the case 70 years back. You can it's not very difficult to uh, intermesh and just continue with your life when you land in a different culture today. Probably it would have been much tougher 70 years back. And like you rightly said, the East has also had its influence on the West. But that's why I was carefully saying broadly, I believe that the East is more on the creeds and cults. But yes, very good examples you brought out there. I mean, Hinduism, of course, is transported to the West now. It's the last 100 years, right? But if you take Judaism, yes, has a lot of deep rituals, and yes, they focus on the way, and of course Islam. Of course Islam is it's not neither east or west, right? So its home is now it's everywhere, but if you take it as the home, then it's more in the middle. Okay, so if I'll try to continue then. The future of
Jai Baba,
humanity is in the
sorry,
yeah, Kama.
Jai Baba. I have a comment here. I think that creeds and rituals have always been with every religious operating system, whether it's Russian Orthodox
Yeah.
or whatever. But the main point is that what we call as karma kanda. Karma kanda is the beginning before you go into adhyatma kanda. There is a chapter in Discourses which talks about the Shariat and something else. I forget the equivalent Sufi term.
Tariqat,
So ritual,
Shariat,
yeah.
Tariqat, Hakikat, Marifat.
Um, yeah, whatever. But the point here is that I don't think we should say rituals are bad. It's a beginning. It's actually if it is done with dedication and devotion. And I think before the Industrial Revolution, for the last 5,000, 10,000 years, we have had, at least in the East, in what I've seen in South India, the rituals had a meaning behind it because our material life was very simple and spiritual life was much more complicated with all the rituals. So, what we are seeing in this era is because we are in the Industrial Revolution IR 5.0, where we have a very complicated material life and trying to overlap with a complicated spiritual life, it includes rituals and all these things, makes it much more confusing. So, Baba has made it very simple in terms of what we call as universal brotherhood, unconditional love, and selfless service. That we need to understand the purpose of life, who am I, and so that is why rituals are a beginning, but what happens, people get attached to it and get stuck into it. But the reason for rituals is to go from karma kanda to adhyatma kanda. That's my observation. Jai Baba.
Well said. I think Baba has also said that if you do the rituals with love, then it's better than doing it for doing sake. So that's what I take away. I agree with you on what you said, but
Actually, I disagree with you. Not
okay, go ahead.
disagree, agree. One of the very important work of Baba, he actually has said it many times, that I have come to remove all these rituals and ceremonies, because that is not the real spirituality. All those practices that is done, it's useless. You see, we can't go back and say, oh, back to ancient time, this and that had such a good impact, and then now we cannot write it off. Those time is past. Maybe that was when Buddha was there, or Jesus or Muhammad. Now is Meher Baba. Meher Baba has a new agenda, new humanity, new life, new spirituality. He actually revamped the whole concept of, how man was questing for freedom. That's why he kept on saying, he keeps on, in fact, the reason that he says no ritual and ceremony, he says, man are seeking the spirituality in external events, external practices, whereas they need to find a way of go within. The real spirituality starts from within. That's where you do your meditation, you begin to say your mantra, begin to feel Baba's presence, and and get closer to him. We just can't just Baba has laid it out all, and we can't distract ourselves here, there, here. No, it's really clean. No, it's
It's
a
true.
clean cut. I
Correct,
mean,
correct.
come on,
Clean cut.
we're not here to, we just have to stick to what he says and do our best to really put it in action. That's what I think Baba has come for. Yeah, Jay Baba.
Excuse me, rituals like singing is also like a ritual, okay? And I basically said that rituals are a stepping stone from the external austerities to go internal. It's not that you can just start off with quantum physics and say, like, yes, I know everything, I don't need Newtonian mechanics. Definitely one has to go through, whatever religious system you are. There's not going to be one, like, we are privileged to have Baba in our life, but most people are born in particular religions. And I think that Baba has said that whatever religion you're born in, try to stick to the prophets and do whatever they have to say. And there are, they have developed certain methodologies or techniques to unite with God. So we can't say, oh, that's not good or anything like that. That's my understanding. Hey, Baba.
Yeah, that actually requires a lot of discussion, and probably is out of the scope of this meeting and what we're pursuing here. But we can perhaps put some time, aside, and we can talk about this. I guess we have might have a different understanding or different opinion. Just that. Jay Bob.
No, I think it's. I agree with both of what you said as well as what Kama said. It's a clean cut. That's the ideal, but it's also super contextual. Contextual to the consciousness of the soul, the sanskaras that he carries, and the comfort. But if there is if the person is on the path and he's following the diktats of Baba, naturally you will give up on the rituals. Naturally, because they will not. It's just obvious, right? And I think the ritual as an end in itself is the problem. What are rituals? I was thinking of what Kama was saying, but not even just um, singing, right? Baba was so careful at this stage in the advent of Baba and beyond, we still don't have the crystallization of rituals. Wait for another 50 years. You will see how things develop in Mehrabad, which make it like another religion. Because that
Yeah.
is the nature of weak minds. That is the nature, because we find solace in conformance. We find solace in doing something which is supposed to help, and why others are doing it. That's human nature. So it will get there. Now it's the purest form. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah,
And those that have the understanding, and those that are reading and loving Baba the way Baba wants us to love him, will not do that. And it's a process of self discovery, which is personal. So some will do the rituals, some will not. So, but I agree with you. Maybe
yeah,
that's a broader conversation compared to what we are specifically trying to
yeah,
do. Sanjay.
yeah. Yeah, another point is that Baba is giving you percepts for the new humanity as the evolution of human race is happening. And as we get busier and busier and go to the essence of things, all these additional add-ons will slowly fall off, you know. So that's what he said. You just keep remembering me, love me, and remember me. Constant remembrance and my constant comprehension is what you need. So that message itself gives you that any other thing that you are doing is not as important. Jai Baba. But if you do it out of love, I mean, Baba always said that don't build temples for me, but people insisted and built temples on. And then Baba made them inscribe on the stone that only your heart brings me you here. So once we have a
Yeah.
temple like in Meherpuri, I was there 3 days back. You do that arati, you do that mala, all offering flowers and decorating Baba. Everything is so. I mean, we can call it that as a ritual, but it's written at the bottom that though you have built this temple in my love for me, but I am here only when your heart, when your love brings me here. So that I think tells us what we are talking of. Jai Baba.
Yep. Arguably saying Jai Baba mechanically is a ritual. Okay.
You know,
And I can go on.
can I say something? Can I say something?
Yeah,
When
sure.
Krishna has come and Muhammad has come, Buddha, and then Meher Baba. Now we're all projecting from the love point of view. So wherever we see Baba mentioning about love, and we give a lot of importance to love, and we know it is. But over time, as somebody mentioned, Meher Baba things also become ritual by the time next avatar comes, because men are men, right? Humanity is humanity. They are in the gross plane. Gross plane is more ignorance. Um, I may be born in Hinduism this lifetime, but maybe in next life, I don't know where I'll be born. Maybe in Islam, maybe in Christianity, maybe Zoroaster, maybe Persian. I don't know where. If you look at all the people, they're all scattered, right? Some people, all the people in one time, they're all probably Hindus, and then now they're all distributed in various religions. It doesn't matter as long as this ignorance prevails. Uh, the misunderstanding of the religious truths will also continue. How much each individual evolved from reading these scriptures, that makes a difference, whether
That's
he
all.
is a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu. And unfortunately, if somebody is a devout Muslim, his name never comes in the paper, or we never notice the name. Only when he when he does some terrorist act, so and so did that. We all know the name. You know, um, Unfortunately, the media survives on this bad news. Um, yeah, yeah. Rituals and love, they go together
Yeah.
hand in hand. Jai
So
Baba.
yeah, again, as I said, this is a intensive discussion, and I believe personally it's super contextual. Contextual, the statements are to be interpreted contextually. I will say that, for example, Baba never stopped the Zoroastrians from doing their rituals. In fact, he has participated in many of the rituals of Zoroastrians. I think it's called the Kushti, and so on. And he never stopped them. But then why did he do that if it was a clean cut? So there's an argument there. Anyway, so as I said, this is a deeper discussion, which is not what we are trying to cover today, specifically in the chapter. At this point, I also think we can rotate the reading. Anybody wants to take up?
Kartik, I think it just very quick.
Sure.
I guess perhaps we're mixing a little bit of context here. Because
Mhm.
as one said, I don't remember, this is a process of moving from old humanity or humanity to new humanity. So Baba sketches it out. He's telling us, or he's telling the world, or he's telling the humanity, right? Instead of insisting on cults, creed, ceremony, and so forth, or gaining material welfare, uh, bring selfless love, bring brotherhood. That way you can find a real happiness. So in a way, he's sketching it all out. So I guess when I made a comment, I made a comment about Baba lovers. I
Yes.
thought we're talking about Baba love. Of course, when you know Baba and you came to Baba, it's we're not going around and criticizing people who are religious and have still attachment to ritual and ceremony. Like we are 8 children. I'm the only Baba lover. 7 of them, they know, they have heard of Baba, but they're insisting on their own way of whatever ideas or religion or whatnot. I never talk to them in a bad way or put them down or whatever, because I believe it's not my work, it's Baba's work. He's working to convert these people little by little by little, like that. Jay Baba.
Jai Baba. Baba. Yeah. Fair enough. Let's continue on the context of understanding the New World Order. Who wants to take over from here? Any volunteers?
I can read.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me read.
So,
Does
okay.
anybody likes to
Yeah,
read
let Mahu
beside
read.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mahu, and then last 15 minutes, Sanjay ji, you can read. There must be love. That's where
Sanjay,
we start.
do you want to read first?
Yeah, I'm
Now we
okay. Let me read first. Yeah.
okay.
From there, yeah.
There must be love for friend and foe, goodwill, patience, and forbearance. Man must try to remedy his own defects instead of clamoring about the faults of others. The world will soon realize that neither cults, creeds, and ceremonies on one hand, nor passionate striving for material welfare on the other, can ever bring about real happiness. But that selfless love and universal brotherhood can accomplish it. The future of
We repeated
humanity,
that. We repeated that, but it's okay. Please go ahead. Future of.
the future of humanity is in the hands of those who have this vision, and the role of the East in that future will be an irreplaceable, irre, irre, my tongue twisting actually, irreplaceable one if it knits its spiritual and human resources together into a creative synthesis of its ancient heritage. Wow.
Oh,
The
okay. That's the end of
responsibility
the
lies on the
chapter.
East. Indirectly, it
It's
says the responsibility lies also heavily on East to use its ancient heritage in this creative synthesis.
yeah.
That's what I take it from this. Yeah. Yeah. Next page, please.
Yeah, actually, it's the next chapter. So we are at
Okay.
the end of the this chapter. So please continue. It's the next one is also related. It's notes on freedom.
Okay. Throughout the ages, the voice of mankind has been lifted up in a great clamor for freedom. The love and quest for freedom are principal characteristics of humanity, regardless of race, time, nationality, or geography. But in spite of the fact that the freedom has been the watchword of grouping mankind for so many thousands of years, there are very few persons who really understand the full implication of true freedom. There are many, though, who struggle to attain a relative freedom dictated by their partial understanding of the nature and conditions of true freedom. Thus, different persons long for different kinds of freedom according to the different things they have come to value. Relative freedom, which is in the hand of which is the brand of freedom usually involved, is sought in all phases of life. That is usually related to the type of existence people wish to lead. For instance, those who identify themselves with their country instinctively work for national or political freedom. Those who are motivated by economic considerations strive for economic freedom. Those who are inspired by religious drives work back, work towards religious freedom. Those who espouse some sociological or cultural ideology promote freedom of movement or speech. The localized freedom which grows from these limited goals is illusory and can only be termed a contrasting state in which the reverse of the discomforting situation prevails. It is a freedom of ignorance in which there is at best transitory peace and plenty and passing relief and enjoyment. Regardless of material bindings of the good and the bad, spiritual freedom is always at hand, ready to be grasped by man. This is true because man's inherent spiritual freedom of the soul is eternal, infinite, and changeless, regardless of whether it is experienced with full human consciousness or not. I think we should discuss this a
Yes.
bit.
Uh,
Yeah.
I had a question actually. So what is Baba saying here in these two paragraphs, relative freedom and localized freedom, right? So, mm, and this line here, it is a freedom of ignorance in which there is at best transitory peace and plenty and passing relief of enjoyment. And the line before that, Baba says, and can only be termed a contrasting state in which the reverse of the discomforting situation prevails. Anybody wants to help me understand this, it'd be good.
So basically, if we follow the kinds of freedoms that we are given in the previous paragraph, it is actually may lead you to in a reverse direction actually in getting the real freedom. That's what I. If you are following a limited freedom goal, uh, which is uh, which is actually which is the
Mm.
reverse of the discomforting situation. I mean, that's what I could gather. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
See,
that's
So does
all
it
the
mean that
freedom.
we should not be, of course, in participating any of these kinds of freedoms, or we should have the real knowledge but still keep acting in one way which we feel that that's something that we must work for. That's for, it could be national, it could be economic freedom, whatever, freedom of speech of people. We work towards them. Is that wrong? I think it's. I mean, if we know what is the final path, even if you're on the way doing these things, is that okay?
so
Yeah.
it's
Baba
Jai
actually
has
come
Baba.
asked us to
to
refrain from politics. That's at least I know.
correct.
See, it's a freedom is a relative thing, right? And you see, a lot of people who came to America, they thought they're getting religious freedom long time ago. So they moved from Europe, which was constrained with all these religious restrictions. They moved to America, thinking they got the freedom. So it's all ignorance, right? If you think in one way, it's all ignorance. From one ignorance to we are changing to another state of ignorance, and we think that is the freedom. So that's what Baba is talking about, relative freedom here. What we
Jai
think is
Baba,
freedom is
what
not
I've
real.
understood,
Yeah.
okay, what I've understood is that in a very simple way, there are two kinds of freedom that Baba has mentioned. One is the material freedom, one is the spiritual freedom. So, material freedom can include not only financial independence, but also political freedom, cultural freedom, artistic freedom, and they are all relative. And of course, material freedom is not the end, as we know in the West, because material freedom does not lead to happiness, as we saw with all the scandals that happened during the financial crisis. So, material freedom is a means towards spiritual freedom. Because material freedom is basically includes roti kapda or makan, the Maslow's hierarchy self-actualization principle, where you need to first take care of your body, definitely in a minimum sense. But then the real absolute freedom is spiritual freedom, which is mukti, liberation. That's why we are here. So that's my understanding, Jai Baba.
Great. Sanjay ji, let's continue.
Yeah, basically, what Kamaji said is like, having that pot of milk on your head and wandering in the mela, it's just that. Yeah. Jai Baba. So I think we have to go to the next page. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Regardless
No,
of
I
the
think
material
regardless, yeah.
bindings,
Yeah.
regardless of the material bindings of the good and the bad, spiritual freedom is always at hand, ready to be grasped by man. This is true because man's inherent spiritual freedom of the soul is eternal, infinite, and changeless, regardless of whether it is experienced with full human consciousness or not. Few realize that this is the basic freedom. It alone can give the stamp of true value of the different kinds of relative freedom. For, in the long run, they are all dissolved in it, even when the external conditions of a free life are completely fulfilled and guaranteed. The mind of man will still be in a state jacket if man has failed to win spiritual freedom. Lose. Okay. External relative freedom is inevitably restricted contact with other individuals. Let me read again. External relative freedom is inevitably restricted by contact with other individuals. Therefore, external freedom is subject to redefinition and restriction within the limits imposed by group communal, and national living. Inevitably, national rights in turn become subject to adjudication and violent readjustment because of the overlapping rights of other nations. The constant adjustment of these so called rights at all levels is completely incapable of final solution within the spheres of interest and controlling principles natural to them. Consciously or unconsciously, individuals as well as nations must draw upon a more reliable concept of freedom within which those rights may be resolved. Yeah, it's quite heavy. Yeah. National, economic, religious, and cultural freedoms are the reflection of the duality of existence. They exist only in varying degrees, subject to constant, discordant adjustment. Even when won through persistent effort, they cannot be permanently maintained because of the external conditions upon which they have been constructed are themselves subject to deterioration. Only spiritual freedom is absolute and unlimited. When it is won through persistent effort, it is won forever. For although spiritual freedom can and does express itself in the duality of existence, it is grounded in and sustained by the realization of the inavoidable unity of all life. One important condition of spiritual freedom is freedom from all wanting. It is wanting itself which claims life by attaching to it the conditions in environment which would fulfill that want. If there is no wanting, there is no dependence and therefore no limitation. The individual, however, achieves true freedom until he is no longer pushed or pulled by any inner compulsion. When he has worked through all the desires and won them so threadbare that he can be or not be, have or have not, then he is free. It is here that the perfect masters are indispensable in helping to lighten this crushing burden of trying to wear out and discard the bonds. Bahu would like to read from here on. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Can I read from Perfect Masters? Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a continuing line from here.
At the
It is here.
individual, yeah. I was trying to comprehend it. Okay, the individual never achieves true freedom until he is no longer pushed or pulled by any inner compulsion. When he has worked through all the desires and worn them so threadbare that he can be or not be, have or have not, then he is free. It is here that the next page, that the perfect masters are indispensable in helping to lighten this crushing burden of trying to wear out and discard the wants. Quick question. Can you roll it up a little bit, Kartik? Yeah. When he says here, um, yeah, the individual no longer, claim that he has freedom until he's got some inner compulsion. But from here, when he has worked through all the desires and warn them so threadbare that he can be or so is that mean that the individual is necessarily has to go through fulfilling all the desires to and then warn them to some level to find out that they're all nothing? uh, I was a little bit confused. Why would it have to go through all the desire and warn them? It might not be necessary to do all the desires, right?
Jay Baba, Maho,
Jeva.
I think the uh, thing is that you don't, you have to just burn or not have any cravings, not just go through the desires, but just restrict or not have desires or not have cravings. I think that's what is being said here is my understanding.
Yeah, I guess
Jai Baba.
I'm confused by its literal meaning. It's so it shouldn't
Yeah,
be
it's
that.
more a general. It's more a general
Was
than
a
a literal.
general, yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
someone wants to make a
Yeah,
comment.
comma. Yeah.
Yeah, what I've understood is basically if you look at the whole creation, evolution, reincarnation, involution process, we know that up till the animal kingdom, there is winding samskaras. You have no control, they are pre programmed. So when you take the human form, you are spending samskaras, which means you are actually spending all those desires, whether it's lust, greed, and anger, which we have imbibed from the animal kingdom. So we go through the reincarnation process where we have to fulfill all those desires, good or bad, whatever it is. And then once you have the grace of a teacher, you realize that these desires were basically part of the material body, the gross physical body, and we need to transcend it. So technically, yes, the desires need to be spent. That is why it's called spending sanskaras. And then whether you do it one time, 10 times, or become an addict, and then you go through a de-addiction process. So one has to go through these desires and understand that we have to renounce these desires and transcend into the spiritual freedom process, Jai Baba.
Jeva.
Yeah. Continue.
Okay, yeah. When the individualized soul breaks through the encasing steel armor of wanting, just his writing is amazing. It emancipates itself from its illusory bondage to bodies, mind, and ego. This is the spiritual freedom which brings with it the final realization of the unity of all life and puts an end to all doubts and worries. Fully conscious, eternal experience of spiritual freedom is the inevitable and final destination for all life and for each individual being. The method of abandoning the hold which duality has on consciousness is not simple. The more comfort and pleasure available to man, the less his chance for a strong enough push to force him to give up even the temporary happiness. Did I read it right?
Yes.
Temporary happiness of his achievements. I read it again. The method for abandoning the hold which duality has on consciousness is not simple. The more comfort and pleasure available to man, the less his chance for a strong enough push to force him to give up even the temporary happiness of his achievements. And yet he must eventually do this internally to bring the full focus of consciousness to bear on the experience of the eternally inherent self or soul with all its blissful freedom of real existence. This is why God loves most the so-called destitute and helpless. The greater the helplessness, the greater can and should be the dependence upon God for his help, which is ever more ready than are the sincere and earnest wishes for it. The greater the bindings, the greater the chances for quick, permanent relief through fully conscious experience of man's own original and everlasting freedom. The unlimited and everlasting spiritual freedom of the self or soul exists eternally and infinitely in one and all, and is equally available to every man and woman, irrespective of class, creed, or nationality. Spiritual freedom can and does transcend all the illusory phenomena of duality, because divine oneness is always divine oneness, before the beginningless beginning and beyond the endless end. Contrarily, the illusion of all material binding from first to last is always illusion, and even its illusory existence depends upon the play of the eternal spiritual freedom of the soul. Wow, this is very this is very amazing. Did you get that? It says,
Yeah.
yeah, and it says, and even its illusory existence depends upon the play of eternal spiritual freedom of the soul. So it is the eternal spiritual of the soul that causes uh, us to experience the illusory existence. See how they go side by side together?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is only in a spiritual freedom that one can have enduring happiness and unhampered self-knowledge. It is only in a spiritual freedom that one finds the supreme certainty of truth realization. It is only in a spiritual freedom that there is a final end to sorrow and limitation. It is only in a spiritual freedom that one can live for all and yet remain detached in the midst of all activity. Any other lesser type of freedom is like a house built on sand, and any lesser attainment is fraught with fear and decay. There is no gift greater than that of spiritual freedom, and no task more important than helping others to find spiritual freedom. Those who have understood the supreme importance of a spiritual freedom must not only strive for it themselves, but also share the God-given duty of helping others win it. Regardless of whether man is wealthy or poor, highly educated or illiterate, the only real help is to give him the perfect hope that everyone has a really equal opportunity to achieve everlasting freedom from all bindings. Helping others achieve spiritual freedom is very different from rendering other types of help. For the hungry, one can provide food and they have only to eat it. For the naked, one can provide clothes and they have only to wear them. For the homeless, one can provide houses and they have only to live in them. But for those who experience the agonies of human bondage, there is no ready means of providing immediate relief except by the grace of God. As a rule, spiritual freedom must be won through watchful and unfailing war against the lower self and its desires. Those who would help shoulder the load in the cause of truth have not only the responsibility of attaining the goal for themselves, but of extending love and understanding to others in every step which they take towards that attainment. There is no other way of sharing their burden. Real help in
Lot of focus here by on sharing and getting others to get on the path as well. Yeah, go ahead. Real
yeah.
help.
Mhm. Real help in achieving the perfect hope of attaining spiritual freedom can only be given by the perfect master who has achieved with full consciousness the freedom of the self and at the same time continues to be fully conscious of the illusion of duality. From him, true and great help can be obtained, for he has experienced 100% of the truth of a spiritual freedom and is 100% confident that the truth is real. Such a perfect master can give relief to humanity from immediate ignorance, as well as relief to the individual from continual ignorance. But direct help from a perfect master is rarely available. And so each individual must help others in every field of life to the utmost, next page, to the utmost of his capacity. First, however, he must take every possible precaution against the development in himself of a sense of obliging or of obligation in the receiver. This is best achieved by a feeling of pure love between man and man. Such selfless love springs from the profound understanding that each individual, on achieving full human consciousness, has arrived at the same threshold of infinite divine oneness. Each human being thus possessed, therefore, a truly spiritual opportunity to achieve the oneness of a spiritual freedom, which is
So
potentially
truly
as
equal. So you missed the
oh
word equal.
oh
Each
I
human
didn't
being does possess, therefore, a truly equal spiritual opportunity. So it's available for all.
yes, truly equal opportunity to achieve the oneness of a spiritual freedom, which is potentially as complete in himself as in the other. Even though one may have tried to take every precaution to avoid any sense of obligation in the help one gives, undoubtedly there is every chance of this element entering to some extent through either giver or receiver. Still, this should be no cause for hesitation in rendering whatever relief one can provide. Although extending help to others is fraught with the danger of endlessly multiplying misery for both giver and receiver, man must nevertheless help his fellow with the same care that he meets his own needs. There are further questions of great importance in rendering help to a suffering humanity, such as temporary versus permanent relief. Often a sharp choice must be made. When immediate relief is likely to turn a curable case into an incurable one or to spread the infection to others, insistence upon immediate relief and refusal to try for a permanent cure is unthinkable. Similarly, there is no real value in helping if one robs Peter in order to pay Paul. There is no point in giving relief in one end by creating misery at the other. The question of pity for the suffering and downtrodden is also a moot one. Such expressions of pity in themselves are an expression of ignorance, as pity itself is invariably based on unconscious denial of the equal capacity for everlasting freedom of the self. There is no truth in the myth that the well-fed, well-clothed, well-educated can best find God. On the contrary, the so-called rich are comparatively more handicapped by fleeting comfort and mercurial resources than are those who feel chained by their material needs. Since God loves the afflicted ones most, to emphasize their helplessness is to act in ignorance of their true state of grace. And instead of, you want to continue? How
I
much
think
longer
we're
is
out
it?
of time, but it's just
Yeah.
one page, so I think
Oh,
we'll
okay, we
finish
can
it.
finish
Yeah,
it. Let's do it.
yeah.
Okay.
So instead
Making
of,
the, yeah,
yeah,
instead of, yeah, next page, instead of making them think more and more about their helplessness, they must be made to come nearer and nearer to God. This is important. It's
amazing,
very
right? So
important.
there's
Yeah,
no use of pitying because
yeah.
Baba anyway has more equal love, if not more, for those afflicted, he says. Beautiful.
Yeah, and this tendency is very dominant. People have a tendency to make drama out of things, and
Hmm.
say, oh, you're this, you're that. They have empathy or sympathy for that, but that's not going to help. The best help, Baba says, that bring them out of it and get them to be nearer to God. Yeah,
Perfect.
that's very important for me. Instead of stressing the limitations of some men, the emphasis should be placed on the limitations of all men. Instead of stressing the need that I help you or you help me, it would be we help us. Instead of making ourselves and others helpless minded, we should become and help others to become helpful minded. The relative difference between man and man in material resources or physical endowment becomes lost like a mote of dust in the infinitely greater resources of the inner self, the treasure house of all. It must be impressed constantly upon humanity that the real birthright of every man and woman is to achieve his own original freedom, that it can be achieved, and that sooner or later it must be achieved. Without this, there is no lasting escape from the day-to-day problems of duality. Men, men must made to be understand clearly that their present life is a chain of continuous strife, that this chain is composed of links of the opposite experiences of virtue and sin, service and tyranny, etc. And the chain can never be permanently ended as long as ignorance is not eliminated by achieving the eternal experience of one's own self. This is very important. This is very important paragraph.
Yeah.
Except, yeah, Except in cases of complete physical helplessness, help can be best given by offering the individual work and making him feel that he is fit to do work. Yet even this help is superfluous when judged from the standpoint of spirituality. Real help that can be rendered humanity is to make man feel his inherent divinity and to cause him to see that the only purpose of life is to love God in order to become one in full consciousness with him. No sacrifice is too great to set man free from a spiritual bondage and help him achieve a spiritual freedom. This alone can bring peace to all, sustained unfailingly by an unassailable sense of universal fellowship and cemented by an ungrudging, am I correct?
Yes.
Ungrudging love, by an ungrudging love for all as expressions of the same reality. Wow, that was heavy, but good.
Yes.
Are we
Yes.
finished? Yeah.
Yes, we finished. So I think the big takeaways were the different kinds of freedom, the fact that spiritual freedom is the one that we all need to aspire for, and of course, the role of the perfect master in helping one achieve and make progress there. But apart from that, Baba says, all of us as we should also help each other. And an example of that could be what we are doing on this call. We are helping each other in trying to understand and get closer to understanding the true nature of reality, and hence learning to love God and get closer to God in an effort to become united with Him, right? So I think that, and finally some beautiful concepts of how the only thing that we need to do for people who are less endowed than us is just to get them closer to God. That's the bigger contribution that we can do. So beautiful
Yeah,
takeaways
Karthik,
for me.
yeah, I mean, that's correct. That's the final theme. But would not Baba expect us to help everybody around us in general terms? Baba
Of
says
course,
that
that
the
goes
best thing that
without
you can
saying.
do. Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean, it should not be taken
But
as
don't
that
do it. No,
because,
but don't do
yeah,
it from
eh,
a point of pity.
yeah,
Don't do
I
it
mean,
from, yeah,
compassion, maybe the word may be pity, or it could be compassion, or it
compassion.
could
Yeah.
be, pity may not be the right word, but we should not read it in a way that, that we should not be helping everybody around. So if we feel sorry for people who are in bad condition, that's Baba has said that's good. I mean, that's the way to love God. If we feel happiness in others' happiness, we love God.
Jai Baba.
So we should read that in this 1 minute, Ashok. We should read that in that context. I mean, yes, this is the final thing that the spiritual freedom for us and also for our fellow humans is the final aim. But on the way, there are many other helps that probably people need, and we must provide willingly, lovingly, and as Baba's work. Yeah, Baba.
And selflessly.
Jai Baba. I'll just quickly say that we started this today's reading with how to love God, and the 7 postulates which are mentioned in that are quite relevant in helping each other and in helping humanity towards how to love God. I think we started that with that, and of course, teamwork is there, and selfless love is there. And I also wanted to add something which came up in my mind is uh, that reality and duality is like a seesaw. So if you want to attain utmost reality, that's the top of one edge of the seesaw, then you have to re- absolutely make duality zero. So it's
Yeah.
one reality and zero duality, and that is the one end of the seesaw, the top end, and the down end is duality. Is how I look at it, Jeva.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, Sanjay, yeah, we need to help, but we help for our own sake, right? We are basically we have a problem of focusing more on our I consciousness. That we are
Yes,
calling it
yes.
selfishness. To for the remedy of that, we need to go and help volunteer to help others. But even when
Yes.
we are volunteering, we have to be very careful because the problem is with the ego. How are we
Correct.
going to use the ego? Because we have to use ego to help others, but are we in good control of the ego? We don't know. So, but what is the best way
Correct.
is to, before even we go and help, we have to pray to God. Baba, help me to do the best charity, best
Right, right, right.
offering of my work, as
So,
you want me to work, so that I don't
yeah.
get any benefit
So,
of it. I'm doing it
absolutely.
for your sake to please you. Okay. But
That,
our main
that,
duty is not to help others, but our main duty is to love God. That is our main duty.
yes.
If that
Absolutely.
task, if somebody needs help, yes, we will help,
Yeah,
thinking we are doing Baba's work.
yeah.
Baba gave us this task. Jai.
Yes, yes. That's
Jeva,
absolutely, absolutely correct.
in the
So
one,
even if,
one
so
good way
best thing,
session would be if we can
Ashokji, you
how to love God again. If somebody can read that.
I think we are running out of time, Ashokji. I mean, we
Okay,
can
Yeah.
okay.
read it at our end.
But that's okay,
Uh,
Sanjay ji. That's
yeah,
okay, Just talk. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Only thing is, if we have to control our ego, but even if there are, bit of it, and then we get the consciousness, we need to, kill it as much as we can. But that itself should not stop us from helping others.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
over time, it will go away. I mean, yeah, yeah, Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
doing it
Just
selflessly.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
We need
Mahu.
to practice this. Is we need to practice this with Baba. Okay.
mm,
I do my best to do that, but it's not that I'm successful all the time or even half time. What Baba said, make me as your constant companion. Talk to me, ask me question, and so forth. So I do that often, and I listen internally to see how Baba communicates. And we must listen to Baba inwardly. We must follow his wish to see what he wants us to do, who he wants us to help. Of course, we like to go around and help this, help that, but we got to make sure that this is exactly the path Baba has in mind for us. This is very important for us to have that communion with Baba. Just the way Balnatu had, right? Balnatu in his other books, like that. I think that brings us best result. Well, I think so, but I may be wrong. But
Yeah,
what I'm sharing my experience.
I'm glad you have made progress there. I am struggling with that in a big way. I'm not able to. I try my best, but I'm not able to. My ego mind is messing with me to uh, get the responses from Baba in the right manner. It the, the in the sense I mean, I know we are way out of time. We can pick it up some other time as well to discuss more. How do we sharpen our intuition to a way where Baba wants us, in a way where Baba wants it, where we are able to ask and get a response every time. That's the ideal position that we should reach. And I hope I make progress there. And I'm glad you are able to do it, and maybe some others as well on the
Yeah.
call. Yeah,
One
some other time we'll talk
quickly,
about it.
one hint, we're out of
No,
time.
Karthi,
One
if somebody
hint
was
I can,
you need to go, they can always go. They have freedom to go.
yeah,
But this
Sure.
is very interesting for us.
one hint I can give is that
Hmm.
Kartik, do not rely on your mind. Even
Okay.
this meeting that we have is a mental work. Okay, it's
Correct.
mind, but it helps us to get closer to Baba's divinity. It's amazing us. Is all this fascination about what Baba says. What we can do is we can bring it to our heart. We need to start practicing coming. And I tell you, people who come from India, they must not have a lot of problem. I mean, when I'm comparing it to the West, seriously, when I'm
I
comparing
agree.
it,
I know what you mean.
yeah, they're already in their heart. They're already living in their heart. Their simplicity, their innocence, their yeah, all that is what helps for you to always reside in your heart. Just when the mind wants to start judging this person, that person, or this, that, put it away. So, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna. It's a constant fight in a way that it's a constant work that we must do. It's not that I'm very successful. No, but I'm trying. Because Baba said, do your best, do your best.
Leave the rest.
But don't worry, be happy. I will help you. And if we
Yeah.
sincerely work and, do our best, then no doubt he's going to help. So that's your gift for tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
this morning to you. Mine is a night. So
Right.
have a
Yeah. Yeah.
wonderful
Thank you.
Sunday, all of you. Jai Baba.
Anybody else has any thoughts? I know Norm, for example. She has conversations and she gets answers and she gets beautiful intuitions. I mean, she has the gift of intuition and she has no doubt about it. My ego mind is messing with me all the time, saying, "Hey, is this? How do I make sure that my mind is not playing with me?" So that's my struggle. And like I said, like Ravi said, anybody who wants to drop off because of time pressures, please feel free. But anybody who wants to stay on, please stay on.
Yeah. See, one thing I would like to say, Karthik,
Hmm.
when there is a saying that we all know, when the going gets tough, tough gets
Hmm.
going, right? So
Correct.
what we need to do is we need to continue to work on, even though our ego tries to mess with us, but
Hmm.
we keep going with that. One time I was in Mehrabad, my whole family got sick, and the great Dr. Annie, nobody was there, luckily. Dr. Annie was with us whole night. And I was going there and talking to her. And then she was telling me all her experiences, how she came to this country and how she stayed in Mehrabad, not knowing anything about Meher Baba. And then Peter Nordine told her, continue to stay here, but be ready to be worked on your ego. That's what she told me, you know?
Mm. Mm.
So until we continue to work on our ego, Baba, gives challenges, but we have to go
Yes.
on. But we need to know how to appropriately use the ego. That's all there is to it. Only way to get to that situation is keep on doing it, but keep on offering after we are done the charity work or helping others. We just think about Baba and offer, Baba, I'm not going to take any credit for this. Please,
Mm.
I offer my whatever I did to you. I entrust what all I did to you.
I've
If
had
we
better
just think,
success there, right? So
yeah,
on
yeah,
the provisional working ego, I have much better
mhm,
success. So I try to
yeah,
bring him into into all the things and
Yeah,
into
but don't second guess yourself. Sorry for interrupting.
that's my
Do
fear.
not go around
So
and try to analyze
Yeah.
what your ego is doing or what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just flow with it. Just
Yeah.
flow
Yeah.
with it and see and let it be natural. Let it
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah.
work itself. And what did Baba say? All this eternal truth is within us. Even that eternal truth bring us the illusion, bring us the duality. So it's the one who's running the show. He is already running the show. It's just we need
Mm.
to take side with him rather than taking side with duality or Maya. That's,
mm,
it's that simple. But I guess, no, but doing it is hard. I know, you know. Anyway, just think
yeah,
of Bobo more and
sure,
more. That's all of us. We should
Ye-
think of
sure.
Bobo
Yeah.
more and more and sing for him, dance for him, listen to Bobo's music, go to Merabad. Just make your life Bobo, 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 all Bobo, you know, and then eventually he takes over.
Yeah. There's a
Good.
quote Baba says, the aim of life is to love God. The goal of life is to become one with the God. To do this, you have not to renounce the world, but to renounce the low desires, dishonesty, and hypocrisy. Then, in the midst of activities, you will be loving God as you should be loved. Because Baba is the one who really gauges our ego. We don't need to worry about it, as Mahu said. We don't need to constantly analyze. Just do it. If you think I have done it, let it think. But remember, offer everything to Him. That's what I try to do. I'm not the expert, but I'm talking as though I'm an expert. But that's all we try to
Karthik,
do.
as a suggestion, maybe later on, um, we could include some time for meditation together before reading or after reading, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just a silence on Baba with his picture displayed on a
Actually,
screen.
Namita is expert. Namita used to do that
That would
once in
be
a way.
nice if one day we can
Yeah,
eventually do that.
that'll be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we should do a guided meditation and then actually do at least a few minutes of
There
silence.
is
I was thinking
Namita.
of that.
Namita
Yeah,
ji.
yeah.
Jai
Once you
Baba.
ask Jai Baba. All you
Jai
need to do
Baba.
is ask for Namita, she will show up.
And
All right?
you know something, today's reading was so beautiful, and each of the aspects we read about, I've seen those changes in myself.
Mm.
When you distance yourself from situations where you take ownership, you say, this is all Baba's. And then you also detach yourself from the body. This is a mechanical instrument. You don't need anything from yourself. And when Baba guides you to something nice, it's his dictate. And when he gives you challenges, you always say, okay, now you let me know what to do. So, being in a circle of beautiful souls like we are all Baba lovers, Baba just plans our narrative. And
Mm.
that sweetness of emotion in our hearts is Baba. And whether it is towards another human being, whether it's towards another cause, whether it's aligning ourselves with something which we feel good about, actually, the feeling of that sweetness in our heart is actually Baba. That is for me. And it keeps on expanding and growing, and you become calmer. Another thing that stayed with me is when you do not have any expectations from anyone, then your journey becomes very smooth. When you are analyzing people and you say, hey, I did this for you, how come you can't do anything for me? That's where the friction arises. When you do selflessly, the whole dynamics changes. And I feel in Baba's path, what happens to each one of us is like a caterpillar turns into a beautiful butterfly. That's what happens. We are changed cell by cell. Even if out of everything that we read today, even if 5 sentences stay with us, and then you tick those boxes, yes, that's happening to me. And you don't want to be noisy, you don't want to be loud, you just like when you listen to a good verse of poetry, you say wow. And that's what happens, when Baba's words resonate with how things have changed within you since Baba has been in your life. Baba has been in our life all the while because he's the creator. But recognizing that and going through the realization and feeling of his grace on us, I think that's such a beautiful journey. And all of us are so very privileged to be able to, there's this swan, if I'm not wrong, who knows how to distill the pearls from the water. So in Baba's path, when we read his literature, we talk among ourselves, we share our, it is that ability Baba gives us to distill, the pearls out of water, and you say, yeah, this doesn't work, that works better. And yet again, even if it is better, the balancing and our ability to merge with Baba will be when we are equal to, which means bad and good is equal. So I don't take in ownership for anything good that I do. It is all Baba's grace on me. And I ask for direction from Baba. Say, Baba, these things I don't know how to solve. These things are irritants in my eye. Can you show me the path? Then you float, it's like in a swimming pool, you just keep your elbows behind and you're just floating, and wherever it takes you, that trust that you build with that divine entity which is responsible for this whole creation, and you understand that you're just a little bubble, and that bubble also, when he pricks, you become one with the rest of the universe. So this beauty of being one with him, Su Hamsu, and you recognize that when I go into the temple, the deity is not the one sitting on the podium. The deity is within me, who has walked in. And these little oomph things, waha, ah things happen to me all the time, in little things, colorful flower, greenery, feeling cold and not feeling cold because things get sorted out and stuff like that. Ability to reach out, ability to find ways to contribute is all Baba's path. It is like he creates those tributaries for us to merge with the great ocean, which is him. And I'm so certain that he has put us on an accelerated path. And it's so beautiful, when you detach yourself from the material things. We have worked very hard towards achieving whatever we have, the houses and bringing up the children and blah blah blah. Then you know that this is temporary. All these things, material things, have longer life than us. The only variable that is getting that is finishing is this body. And we are living this life on borrowed time. And to be able to become a light for our own selves, for that soul, and for that light that Baba has shown on us, it is his divine grace. And it's such a beautiful feeling within our heart. There's no friction, there's absolutely no friction. You are able to take people. I mean, it's not perfect. We also understand. We are also mindful of what doesn't serve, what isn't good. You are your own barometer. You understand, yeah, this is not something which is Baba like. I should alter it. So you make baby steps to understand. How do I? You don't. Baba teaches you. He says, okay, you recognized it. Now these are the steps for you to, um, you know, come closer to me, come towards that 100% purity, which is Baba. We are also pure in our own ways. Some is 30%, 40%, 50%, 80, 90, whatever. But Baba's whole game, he just sits on this throne, maybe on a Sheshnag, like the Vishnu would. And we are his children. He wants us to better. Every parent wants the child to be better. And so he irons out these difficulties or these impressions which we have had for years, as stones, as plants, as animals, and as human lives also. Sometimes we are jealous, sometimes we are greedy, sometimes we are this and that. And the recognition that these are oddities which need to be thrown away These are all at Baba's dictate. None of us, at least not me, I can take credit for being on this path at all, you know. We are driven or invited by. We are in Baba's love by invitation. And that's such a beautiful grace we have. And this community, it has helped us grow so much that it's unbelievable. That's all from me. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba, thank you. What started as a personal question turned out to be so interesting, and thanks for sharing. And I hope it's useful to all of us.
Yes.
Before we go, let's take a leaf out of what Mahu said. Maybe starting this meeting, we'll do a minute of silence collectively on the call, and we just bring Baba into our minds and hearts, and then we will end the call.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, so
Karthik,
before
Yeah,
or
Ashok, you had
at the
something to
end,
say?
I'm
Uh,
sorry,
I was
before or
that
at the end, Karti.
uh, now, at the end.
okay.
So every
We'll
Oh,
now.
okay,
But
now at the
I
end.
want
Can
to.
you also bring Baba's photo?
sure, let
One
me
of
do that.
Baba's photo.
Let me do
All
that.
Actually,
the
we can
Karthik,
have it as a backdrop, you know. You can create one Meher Baba Awakens. I can create it for you, and we can all have it as a backdrop for this meeting.
Sure.
Yeah,
Jai
you
Baba,
can create it. Yeah, yeah.
Karthik, before we leave, I would think that 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of meditation in the end, and I would request Norm to be there at least in the last 15 minutes, because that meditation is to reduce friction and to come closer to Baba on the path. So, I mean, I would say 15 minutes time at the end, and then you can also have that 1 minute, whatever you want to say, silence. Or
Yeah. So let me think about all of those options, because it also has to be a pattern that we can stick to. But the 1 minute silence is something that's been in my mind, and I'm glad Mahu brought it up. And we should do this as a good way to internalize, and instead of an abrupt end, just bring Baba into our minds and hearts, and then end the call by just saying Jai Baba after a minute.
absolutely.
On the
That's
meditation,
wonderful.
let me think about. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
whenever we can have
that's
Nomita,
wonderful.
we should have meditation.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good idea. The
Jai
problem
Baba.
is having Namita.
No, I'm always there. I don't talk because I don't think I'm used to talking. I want to learn from all of you luminaries, you know. I'm mostly there, but I don't talk.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So with that, we start the 1 minute timer now.
Okay.
Tan Meher Baba ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai Baba. Thank you so
Jai
much.
Avatar
Jai
Mehr
Baba. Have a
Baba
good day.
Ki
Jai
Jai.
Baba.
Avatar
Tan
Meher.
Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.
Thank you. Thank you for a beautiful